Pupils. I've done that before when they've gotten them infected.
We only need 4, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Huh? Oh, for work session.
Yeah, for a work session, it could just be
So is he gonna be out?
you and whoever you want
Okay.
there.
And there she is,
Hello, man.
right on time, 5:59.
Uh-oh.
No. Does your request to speak button work?
I don't know, they turned it off and reset it and turned it back on and it worked fine.
There's the important
Maybe
piece.
he doesn't have it.
There we go.
Somebody said this too.
All right, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday, July 8th work session that we have tonight. We're going to talk about short-term rentals, which is a bill that got introduced a couple weeks ago. We had done a work session on this once already, but it seems that for whatever reason, to fly under the radar of a lot of people who all of a sudden, when we were talking about passing this bill a couple weeks ago, said, whoa, 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 I didn't catch this. So it got a lot of people's attention, and we started getting a lot of different comments. I'm assuming that everybody got emails from different groups that got sent to us. I know at least one of them was earlier today from the Realtors, and John Bennett sent one. I think somebody else sent another one. So wanted to start off with just kind of opening up for comments from the council and see what thoughts are on possible amendments that we want to put on this. Are there any changes after reading thoughts from folks and having the couple who was here a couple of weeks ago express their concerns?
I could start.
There you go.
So my only suggestion was that, and I know I talked upon this a little while back, but grandfathering in everybody that has current short-term rentals. I mean, I don't want to put anyone in an economic disadvantage by telling them they have to sell something that they've invested in, and I did get a call from somebody that has been working on investing in short-term rentals and have really made some outstanding improvements to the lot. So I just don't think I want to be in a position to hurt anyone economically. I want to just put some limits and controls from this point forward. So that's my comment. So.
Anybody else's thoughts on grandfathering in existing short-term rentals? Hi. Can you pull that microphone to you? Thanks.
Well, I would hope that we would grandfather rentals because these folks are doing it. It's a legitimate business. And we're making it harder for, people who bought these things, fixed them up. I got to say, I don't like this ordinance. I know why we're doing it, but it's just removing people's freedoms and liberties. I think it's wrong. I do understand why you're doing it. I'm not trying to criticize. I just understand that when we do these things, there's always good intentions, but it just doesn't always seem to work out so well. So I don't know. I don't know how you're going to grandfather them, but that's would have to be what some of these folks have had them in here, had them running their businesses. It seems to me though, with Bob's problems, with some of the ones that are taking advantage of the law and breaking the law and doing things, it seems to me we should be able to come up with some other solution than making it about targeting the VRBOs. It seems like we could, I thought we had an ordinance that you could have, like in residential property, you could only have so many families in it and stuff like that. Didn't we do something like that years ago? Do you guys remember?
It doesn't change the fact that people are still renting them and throwing parties and there's fights. And you could still have the required number of people living in there and still throw a party and be a problem area. So I don't know if, I mean, I'd be open to anything you suggest on how we control these problems. I mean, we have some issues, I know in my district, where we've had some problems with these short-term rentals. I mean, it's not a whole lot of them. I think for the most part, they're following the rules, but we have to do something to control the ones that aren't, so.
I don't disagree, Tim, it's just that I would like to know if someone could say, okay, this is the ordinance we're gonna do, and the ordinance will not affect anybody's freedom and liberties on the existing businesses, the people who are doing it right, it won't affect them, and it will address the problems that, even the problems that they have. If we grandfather them,
Yep.
that would continue, so that doesn't solve that problem. I mean, you see, so I don't know, because it just seems to me
It
that.
does solve the problem, because we can revoke their license if it becomes a problem.
No, oh, even if we grandfathered it?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, maybe, I don't know.
Well, I think if you grandfather it, they can continue to operate. Part of the question is, like the couple who said a couple of weeks ago who's here, if you stick with the 600-foot radius, like one person pointed out to me, we don't have it spelled out as to how we're measuring the 600 feet. We do have that? So is it, come on up, Mike.
Mr. Holbert.
Let's clarify some stuff. You want to start by addressing Joe's earlier?
Sure, so the definition of family is defined in the zoning ordinance. So you can have two or more, no more than 3 people unrelated by blood or marriage. Okay, the problem is, and this is what always happens, somebody calls us and says the definition of family is not being met. We send an inspector out. How in the world do we prove that? We have no idea who is related, who's not. We can try to do an inquiry, but on short-term rentals, they're gone. They're gone after the weekend, typically. So there's just no way for us to enforce that, to be able to actually do, what that ordinance, what that states. It's very difficult.
No, but it's the same thing with the VRBOs. How are you gonna, Mike, you guys got a person counter that's gonna go count how many members or how many guests are in? I mean, I just don't understand how
That's
it's
the
gonna work.
problem. It's very hard to, this is the problem with the ordinance. This is what we talked about going in. And this is why staff was heavily involved in trying to come up with something that we feel has some enforceability to it. But the more we venture into other territories, the harder it's going to be to enforce.
Question, you mentioned that there is a way to measure the 600 foot.
Yes.
Is that correct? Can you explain that?
Yeah, it's defined by property line to property line.
Okay.
So we literally take the furthest point of the property on that, where the house is located, and measure it to the next property where there's a short-term rental.
So
now,
the question that somebody was asking was, is that along the road, or is that as the crow flies? So
Yep.
that was the issue that one person brought up, that there are places in the county where you could start at the back of that property line for where that is, and you literally touch 3 different subdivisions. So by doing 600 feet, you could be cutting out a lot of short-term rentals because they wouldn't even be on the same street. And the whole purpose, if I'm understanding correctly, but the way you guys were talking about the 600 feet, was you were trying not to have a whole street of short-term rentals. But I think
It's to prevent a congregation of wherever they are, whether it's the same street, the streets next to each other, there's a bunch of short-term rentals. The potential for issues is exacerbated by the number, having many more all in one spot. So it's not about the subdivision, it's all about the distance. And that's the whole point. And that distance comes straight from our zoning, our ordinance, which is for group homes. That's the distance we have for group homes currently. So we just felt that was simplistic in its approach, that we're using the same set of standards for group homes as we would for short-term rentals.
now somebody emailed me an interesting question. How do duplexes fit into this? Okay, in other words, you got,
2 sides.
got two residences that are basically in the same building. How would that apply?
So under the current ordinance, they would not be able to have short-term rentals next door to each other. So because you can have separate ownership within the duplex. And so you treat it as an existing home, just like any others.
That's why grandfathering is, I think, is important, because if the scenario you just said, if someone does have, you know, a duplex or a fourplex, and there's two of them that are short-term rentals, then the first one's going to get it and the others aren't. And I don't know if that was really our intent, Patty. I don't know if you've got any thoughts, but that wasn't our intent when we started looking at trying to create an ordinance, was to hurt people financially. It was to control problem areas.
The problematic VRBOs that you guys talk about, are those legitimate? Are they actually like on Evolve? Are they on vacation rental?
Right. Airbnb, all.
Okay, wow. I'm just surprised an owner would allow that kind of behavior. They're not a good operator, that's for sure.
The owner is important.
Huh?
Yeah, they're not local.
The owner is in
So
order.
these are corporations
Oh, I
that are
got you.
purchasing these and making money.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
We expect that most, if not all, are going to be advertising some way. Otherwise, how are you
How are you
doing
gonna
it?
find them?
Yeah,
Right.
so there should be some sort of advertising going on for us to find out who's doing that. The other thing about is those who pay the tax into the Convention and Sports Facilities Authority. So whoever pays that tax, that's an easy list to be able to find out who's doing what.
Okay, I would assume that St. Charles and St. Peter's both have ordinances that are,
I'm not familiar with St. Peter's.
Okay.
St. Charles
Yeah, I know
has
St.
an
Charles
ordinance,
does.
but St. Charles is doing the opposite of what we're doing. St. Charles literally limits it to the historic district only. We're doing it
Now they do.
not in the
Not in the tourism
tourism district and everywhere else. So we're doing the opposite. So City of St. Charles limits their areas to a small defined area and the number within.
Does any other, Les Wentzville or O'Fallon, do they have anything?
No,
No.
not that I'm aware of.
If I can
Yes, ma'am.
kind of go in here, I had no problem with grandfathering. This is one of these things we talked about, you know, when we were discussing all of this. But we would like to have them inspected so that there is a, you know, a basic, we know that they are, you know, following any kind of rules that, you know, it's a safe environment. That's the big thing. Because I know people who have gone to Airbnbs and, you know, the electricity doesn't work and there's nobody to contact, things like that. So we wanted to make sure that there is someone to contact there at 24 hours. There is somebody that can come and answer any real concerns. I don't see that happening a lot. I owned a bed and breakfast for 10 years and, you know, you might have goofy people in there. And we did have, you know, our very first person we had to ask to leave because we said there was no smoking, and he wasn't smoking, but he brought a little band back. It was down on Main Street, and they closed
brought
the
a
bar and
band
brought the whole
back?
band back because they were Irish and he was Irish, and so they're partying on our back porch and kind of the same thing. You know, it was like, wait a minute, we didn't want this, and we just had to ask him to leave. And then he canceled his check on me, so we never got paid for anything. So I know things can happen, and if there's somebody there, like, you know, we could handle it right away. If not, that's some of the problem with this, is that something starts going on, and we've seen it, you know, that's why the City of St. Louis shut it down, is because people come and say, what a cool place, call their friends. They're not going to spend the night there, but they're going to come and they're going to party. And the next thing you know, you got this big party going on because it's a cool place to hang out. So we've talked a lot about how do we allow people to, you know, to feel like they are safe, that they, as a business owner, they do a good job. I'm sure a lot of the ones down in the wine country are you know, beautiful bed and breakfasts and are Airbnbs and able to do things. The 600 feet, I don't think we have a problem, except that, like we said, we just didn't want clusters of them. We didn't want a company coming in and buying 4 duplexes and making them all into, you know, Airbnbs. It just starts complicating things, and in itself. One of the things that a lot of people or a couple of people commented on is that we have 2 adults and 1 child per bedroom, and they wanted to add like, oh, but you can have up to 4 other people. I'm not
Up to
for
4
that.
other people per bedroom?
No, for the whole, in the whole.
Oh.
So let's say you have, 4 couples in a 4-bedroom and they each have, a child. You've already got, 12 people, and then if you add 4 more in there sleeping on cots and whatever, that starts getting just, I think, too many people. But one of the things we did talk about is the more rules and regulations and things you can and can't do go in here, the harder it's gonna be. We just want we want it safe, we want to be able to get in there and make sure that it's safe, and then after that, here's what you gotta do. You gotta, provide a good service, and you've gotta follow the rules and not let things get crazy. And, and then we back off.
Does this work, Mike?
Oh, yes. Sorry, I was looking at that.
No, I just don't know what it's supposed to do.
It shows up on me, it says
Oh.
Joe Brazel has a question and wants to talk. So it's to help me stay organized.
Well, and to what Patty said, I kind of have a problem with the government coming in and telling us, whenever you use the term safe, make sure the government knows if it's safe. That's always a bad term. That's a bad thing, okay? Because now the government's going to come in, county government, and do inspections on the property. I mean, the way these things are going to operate is going to be dictated by the quality of the service of the provider and the operator. We don't need inspections for the government to say that these are efficient VRBOs. And also, the thing on the amount of people, if somebody has a big house with 3 bedrooms and they have some big spaces in the basement, some great rooms, and with a pull-out couch, you're gonna tell them they can't have people sit on a pull-out couch? That's like, this is almost getting to we're veering like to communism with some of these rules and this stuff. It's getting to be ridiculous. Where like I said, I am not criticizing. I understand the purpose, but it always goes in the wrong direction. And when we're starting to spin off and all this other stuff, man, these people have been running, the ones that have been doing a good job, paying their taxes, buying new furniture, painting their houses, fixing them up. I know, I got 5 VRBOs, I know. It's not easy work, and I did it most of it myself. And, and they're not big money makers. I'll tell you that right now. You're not getting rich off of them. You're not.
You are if you owe 6,000 of them.
Well, yeah.
Some corporations do.
Well, maybe you make it about, I don't even know if you could do it. Can it be, I don't think you could do it, but got to be local resident, got to be Missouri resident. Can you do that? I don't think so.
That's
can
a
you?
regulation. That sounds like more like communism to me than anything.
Yeah, I know. It's just, that's what I'm saying. You're just veering off into some bad ideas. I don't know.
And if we could figure out a way to address these problem areas, that's our, that and not clustering them. To me, that's the sole purpose of this ordinance. Again, I use the analogy of a cul-de-sac with 10 homes. If you live there, you don't want 6 of them to be Airbnbs. I mean, you just don't.
No, I understand it. And like if you said, you grandfather to your legitimate ones, and then you pull the permits on the guys that are doing it wrong, if you can write it that way. And I think 600 feet, there's no other community that goes that big. Do they, Mike? 600 is pretty big.
It's
Like I said, it's mirroring group homes.
About one every 50
And,
years.
and you think about, most lots are 80 foot wide in the county. So you're talking about 5, 6 lots, 7 lots. So you could have one, similar street of 7 houses apart.
I think it's more
Frankly.
problematic when you start talking about the ones that back up to other subdivisions. That's when, those are the unintended consequences.
Well,
that
I think of it as the neighbor that lives next door to that one, and then there's one behind them as well.
Yeah,
I mean, good night. That's a lot of noise, a lot of potential issues that could happen there.
if 600 feet, you can cross a street. Yeah,
So I want to kind of take this in a different direction, if you will, here for a moment. We have a lot of people who are doing it correctly, as Mr. Brazel has said, and we really don't want to penalize them. When I first came on the council, we had an issue with somebody who was burning debris in the backyard that shouldn't have been doing it, and we created an ordinance that penalized them every time they showed up and they had to go to court, and there was a fine structure, first offense, second offense, et cetera. Could we do something similar to that, where if we have a rental that has numerous violations, that then they lose their permit to be able to have a rental.
That's what this does.
But I mean, this would be
We don't have
complaint-driven.
violations.
Right now, we don't have a rental inspection.
Right.
So we're not keeping track of rentals versus,
And that's where, I'm just throwing this out there, and I don't want to target rentals, but if we're doing short terms or anything else, some that's more complaint-driven, and then, I hate to say this, have the courts get involved in it all, because then that lengthens the process and everything else. But I do have to agree with Mr. Brazel, I really don't like government getting too much involved in this. And there's a lot of really good people that spend a lot of money fixing these places up, and no one on the street even knows they're a short-term rental.
Right. Well, I appreciate the situation that Bob brought up that's happening in his neighborhood and Tim trying to help him out. The only thing I would say is, Joe, this is your 26th year on the council. It's my 13th year. I've never heard of this problem. No one's ever brought this up to me in 13 years. Have you ever had this come up?
Nope.
So what I'm really worried about is we're taking a bad actor in a neighborhood and we're gonna put a new policy in place for the entire county because we got a bad actor in the neighborhood. And I'm worried about overstepping, to Joe's point, you know, is this really a problem? Or is this, we have an incident that we need to figure out, and maybe it's not a short-term rental bill, right? Maybe it's, can we work through our ordinance to be able to figure out what's happening in his neighborhood? How can we fix that? Because, you know, Tony brought up the thing when he was in the legislature, and I know Roy's looked at this part, but if you live in the house and you're renting a room, technically, I believe we're falling under short-term rental there, but Tony said that's in conflict with state law in his opinion. So it's like I'm worried about us being in a position where we're stepping on other jurisdictions and it has us in conflict with state law. I want to be able to fix their problem and I want to be able to address that. I'm just worried, to Joe's point, that we're overstepping.
Well, you're addressing Bob's problem, but what about the scenario that I mentioned, again, the scenario of a cul-de-sac?
I get it, but again, I've been here 13 years. No one's ever brought it up. He's been here 26. No one's ever brought it up.
And 26 years ago, there weren't a whole lot of short-term rentals either, were
Yeah,
there? I mean-
we're in a way new era here when it comes to, now, I'm not defending either one, but the term short-term rental and BRB, that's something that's fairly new.
Right.
It's
Okay.
been around for well over a decade.
Okay.
I mean,
I
we were
know.
going down and doing VRBOs in Florida 20 years ago, so it's not that new.
No, but I think it's new when it comes to, places like St. Charles.
I think you're seeing
more
an
so than
expansion in
Florida.
corporate ownership.
Yeah.
I think that's the bigger part. The out-of-town folks who are coming in and buying up, you hear about, who is it, BlackRock, that they talk about all the time, that are buying up all the homes and making them rentals, and I'm just curious, Mike, is there a better way that we could address this? And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot. Do you think there's a better way that we could address this outside of a short-term rental bill?
I think, I don't know, hopefully there is a middle ground, because the problem is as we've confronted a couple of recent complaints,
Right?
we go there and to investigate, and it's gone. The people have left, the car is no longer parked on the grass, the party is no longer happening, the noise, none of the issues that my department is worked to address is there.
Right.
So we can't respond in time to fix the problem as it's happening. Noise complaint, that would be PD at the time. Cars parked in the street, if they're still there when we go there, we can start that case. But again, it doesn't fix it right away. It's a slow process. So the attempt to fix the issue is not quick. It's not short term in our ability to do it right now. And to your point, the ordinance probably goes much further in terms of what we think is probably enforceable and difficult to work with, but, you know, that's trying to find the happy middle ground. I don't know what that is.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am?
Kind of going to kind of where Matt was talking about, and you're here talking about it too. Do we have like parking violations? Do we have places that you can't park in your front yard? Can I park in my front yard if I live in the county?
Yeah, current county's regulations do not allow a vehicle to be parked on a non-parked surface. So they have to be on gravel at least, but on asphalt or concrete, something like that. So they cannot be parked in the grass. They should not be parked off of the driveway, things like that. They cannot be unlicensed. So unlicensed vehicles cannot be parked anywhere on the property, in the driveway, things like that. Then we also have trailers, RVs, trailers, things like that. There's a limit on the number and the size and things like that. But that's about it. If somebody is parking a box truck in the driveway, by the time we get there, it's gone, and it's, you know, it may be exceeding the size requirement at the time, but again, it's usually not there when we get there. If it's parked in the street, same thing. The street parking actually is PD, because that's not in a private property, that's on public right-of-way. So PD would have to go and investigate, and 9 out of 10 times they find that the vehicle's gone or there's no violation that they can find.
Well, I think you're talking about one of the B&Bs that I had that the big truck was parking there, but we were able to go over and tell them, don't do it, and they said, okay, we won't anymore. I don't know if I've not heard any more complaints. So there's a way we can go in, you know, on particular ones and talk to the owners or send them a letter and say, here, we've had these complaints. Is that how we kind of handle things now?
Yeah, we send them a nice letter to begin with saying, here are the rules, here are the regulations and all the things that you need to be aware of. And then that way, if we get complaints again, then we kind of throw the hammer down by going through the court process. Unfortunately, that's not fast, but that's our hammer.
So are there any new rules we could put in place that could give you more teeth without having to do a whole big ordinance? Or is that something you could think about and maybe get back to us?
We could think on that, yeah. I wouldn't be able to throw something out right here, right now.
Right. I wouldn't expect you to.
Yeah.
But that might be a direction, you know. I was really, I don't say insistent, but I really like the idea of an inspection just to make sure that it's safe. And like I said, I've had friends who've been in that situation where they weren't in a safe situation, and you know, I don't know how you take care of that. And that's one of the things we just said, and it was very basic on the inspection, just, you know, does it have a fire suppression, not suppression, but, you know, fire alarm and things like that. So, so maybe you could give us some direction with a couple more things that could help if they are a violation in that instance, well, in all instances, actually, so.
Yeah, we can go back and take a look at that.
Would that
Mike,
be okay with you?
Yeah. Mike, do you know, excuse me, does St. Louis County have any short-term rental ordinance?
I'm looking at Robert because he did the research on the zoning codes. So. Do you recall? I don't remember St. Louis County having it.
I think everybody's staying away from it right now.
Well, I mean,
and I think we're finding out why.
When St. Louis City, the first thing they did when they did theirs is they got sued and they had to change their ordinance. But they were doing something much further by changing the property taxes, saying they were now commercial, and it changed the taxes, so that was a whole other issue. But yeah, the city was the recent one, and St. Charles City is really the only two that we found around here.
Any other thoughts?
I will say, just throwing out there, with Councilman York's situation, part of the issue with the parking problem there is the street does not meet regulation width. So anybody that parked a big vehicle, truck, dually, a box truck, whatever, emergency vehicles wouldn't be able to get around it.
Right.
So that's a unique situation, and that's something we looked at as part of it, is maybe they shouldn't be allowed if the street doesn't meet regulation, you know, something like that. I mean, but, you know, that would just take care of that one
Right.
instance, you know.
Well, that would also help in the neighborhood over by the convention center,
Correct,
because
correct,
That's.
you have
what
a
I'm talking-
similar,
yeah.
you have a similar issue over there.
right. I
Where-
did all the small streets for some reason.
That's because you have the oldest part of the
That's
city,
true.
so
That's true.
that's how it was built back there. Mr. Swanson, any thoughts?
No.
Mr. Brazel?
It's just, this is tough, because I understand the problem. I just don't know how we get government to step in and solve the problem completely. That's the problem I think we all are seeing, that we don't want to overstep, as Mr. Brazel has stated, but then as Mr. Baker has stated, we need to do something. I don't know what that is.
Yeah, I think that really kind of comes back to the fact of, I really don't like the 600 feet because of what the couple who was here before talked about. Like, if we grandfather, how do you grandfather and do the 600 feet? You waive it? If you're grandfathered, you don't, you don't have to,
So, Rick, Robert, and myself talked about it today, and the one thought we had was you would actually, because we're not talking about zoning, this is not grandfathered under zoning, this is a license. So you would do some sort of allowance. So if the bill as it's currently written allows for 6 months for staff to put together the rules and requirements and the forms and all that, we could do, within that 6 months, do a catalog of all that are paying tax to the sports facility, the convention sports facility. So then we would know who's paying, and we would say, now we know who the active list is, and then that would give them 30 days after we initiate the process to apply for the grandfather, if you will. So anybody that doesn't apply after 30 days, they're out of luck. But we have to have a time limit on that, because we can't just go forever. And so that was something we were thinking about as a possibility. That way, you would have that within that time frame, and then after over time, they would start to disappear or change or whatever, and those, they would start to spread out a little bit more after that. That's just a thought that we had on the top of our head.
okay.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, here's a thought, and tell me if this is a bad idea, but,
It's a bad idea.
it's a bad idea. So, what if we grandfathered all the existing short-term rentals, and then anything from thereafter, anything within a 600-foot radius of another short-term rental, that would be issued under a conditional use permit? Would that be too burdensome?
Well, we specifically do not want to do it under zoning. So the CUP would be a zoning process.
Okay.
And the reason for that is because you get into all kinds of other issues with land use. It's much more complicated.
But we are changing the land use, though. I mean,
No, it's licensing. We're not touching the land use. It's single family, it's single family, it's single family.
But how is it different than a hotel?
It's smaller in scale, but it's a single-family use. It's still, the size of the structure is still being utilized the way a family would utilize it if it wasn't a short-term rental. That's the goal, that's what it's supposed to be. That's the whole point of the short-term rental within residential districts. They're utilizing a house just like a family would, just on
Well-
a temporary basis, and unfortunately, sometimes they add more people and have some issues with
I
it.
think that's arguable. I mean, to me, I mean, if I own a house and I live there permanently versus I rent it to different people every weekend, I mean, yeah, the zoning's the same, but the use is different. I think, but.
Is it being used for a residential purpose? They're living in it just like a family would.
Is it, I mean, again, and I'm not trying to argue with you, but how is this different than a hotel? It's like, if I have a hotel with 4 rooms,
A hotel would be zoned commercial.
That'd be
Correct.
commercial.
It would have much higher standards and building standards and everything else in place. The single family does not. That's why it's limited to the size.
And you're not residential land use anymore, you're commercial land use now,
I get it, you know.
so.
Not if you issued a conditional use permit, though. You could issue a conditional use permit in a residential zoning district, couldn't
You're
you?
gonna fall under, if you do that, you can put restrictions under the conditional use.
Right.
So you could do that with every one of those. Do we really, I personally don't wanna get into having to do a CUP for everybody who wants to do a rental
Well,
in
that's not
St.
what I'm,
Charles
that's not
County.
what I'm saying, though. What I,
But that's how we would have to do it,
well, I'm saying if.
under your example.
If there was within the 600 foot from an existing, I mean, if there's a short-term rental, that's no other short-term rental around, then it wouldn't be an issue, but.
Kinda like to your backyard, the backyard.
Yeah. Terry, any final thoughts?
You know, again, I just wrote down here, you know, sometimes the problems outweigh the benefits. You know, I mean, that's, I think there certainly is benefits that can be seen by us having a policy, okay? Just a matter of, can we solve the problems that come along with it? And obviously, the grandfathering, I think, is a problem. And again, I think the 600-foot thing is a deal that if people are grandfathered from that point on, anyone that would be applying for one of these would easily know, okay, got a 600-foot limit here to whether I can even apply to be a short-term renter. So those are the two things.
So,
No answers.
may,
What do you wanna do?
yeah,
Hold it.
may I offer a suggestion that we spend a little more time massaging this?
Yeah, I mean, but what changes, I mean, if the council doesn't support this, we can, I mean, we could save a lot of time and stop it now, but, I mean, what other changes could we possibly, I mean, we're picking his brain and he's the guy with the information and thoughts. I don't know, I just think if we can figure out a way to control the clustering of short-term rentals within a street neighborhood, and also have a way to control problem ones. That's the ultimate goal for me. It's not government trying to step, I mean, I don't think government should get involved in all these issues, but when you've got people who have homes and their lives are impacted, I think sitting back doing nothing is not the right choice, personally, so.
I agree with that in theory. The problem is, to Terry's point, is the medicine worse than the disease? Are we putting something on there that's gonna create a bigger hardship for the folks in the county than the issues that we're coming into? And if I'm hearing the comments on the council right, it sounds like we don't have an agreeable bill at the moment of where we're at.
And I totally agree with you know, the exceptions for the wine country, okay, except the fact that, you know, some people point out that, you know, when the county makes rules, they should apply to all parts of the county. I don't know if we agree or disagree with that, but I think it's a valid point to make, you know.
Well, my only comment with that is that I think if you live in a historic area like Defiance and in that area with the wine district, and you live in one of those homes, you kind of expect there's potentially to be a short-term rental near you. If I live in Heritage or Wheeler Cannon, I don't expect two of my neighbors on both sides of my house to be short-term rentals. So, and if those are problems, then we need to figure out a way how to make sure that it's no longer a problem to the neighbors. So, and I think we can come up with a good solution, and I think we're almost there. I just think we need to take what we've got, add the fact that we grandfather all existing, maybe give them 6 months to register or a certain time, and then after that, then the 600-foot buffer takes effect.
How about if we let Mike and his staff see if they can come up with some other thoughts, give them an opportunity to work through some suggestions, because it sounds like there may be another way to skin this cat, rather than, to Patty's point, doing a whole new bill. Maybe we can find another way around it.
Do you
Part
think
of the
that's
thing-
possible, Mike?
Yes, we can certainly take a look at that. I mean, it's some of the conversation we already had, but we can delve a little bit deeper into that.
Well, Tim, I don't know if you know, when I first came on, I met with the staff on this very thing, is to try to do an Airbnb, and pretty much talked myself out of it because of all the issues. Is it workable? But I think it can be workable. We just need to know what it is we want to accomplish. And once we figure it out, is there a different way to do it? Then maybe we try it that way. We can always come back and do this a year from now.
If I may, Ms. York and Mr. Baker, have you reached out to the city of St. Charles and hear about any negative feedback that they've had once they put theirs in place?
I wouldn't even know who to reach out to.
I happen to have my son live through all of that, because they were going to put it in any subdivision anywhere in the city, and found out that people had been doing that illegally, kind of thing, and long story short, they decided, let's pull back on everything and just zero in on the historic district. Even then, they had it to there were people already there that, because of the new ordinance, they wouldn't be able to be in existence, so they had a grandfather, if I remember correctly, and then I don't think they've had much problem with it since then. I haven't heard any complaints from the people who put it in, so, but we could check. Maybe that's part of the list of things you could come up with and see what they have found to be egregious for them. But theirs is very specific about what you can and can't do. It's like 8-10 pages long of all the different things you can and can't do.
But is
And
it only
we
on
tried
Main
to
Street?
say-
It's
No,
historic districts. so
Historic,
it's
any of the
around there.
historic districts.
But they also limit the total number in the city, so there's a cap.
That's more
It's
restrictive
Main
than what
Street,
we're talking
Frenchtown, Old Town, there's like 6 or 7 historic districts now in St. Charles. So all of those were allowed to do it. Midtown,
To your point, that would be kind of the opposite. That would be us putting the restrictions on wine district and
Correct.
not on anything
Anywhere
else.
Yeah.
It'd be a much more focused.
Yep.
Yeah. You know, the biggest issues that people don't think about is when we create any type of ordinance, it goes countywide, and we are such a different county. Like, if you're in Terry's district, it's very municipal. If you're in Joe's district or Matt's district, even Patty's district, it gets very rural. But the same rules apply all the way across the board. And what makes sense in a municipal subdivision doesn't make any sense out in a rural area. But yet, once you make that rule, it applies. So it creates some different challenges when you're doing county stuff as opposed to when you're doing municipal stuff. So I would make a suggestion, unless anybody has different thoughts, that let's let Mike's department think about this for a little bit, maybe come up with some ideas and see if we can come up with something everybody can live with. It sounds like right now we don't have a bill that's going to be passable. So we need to think on that a little bit. And maybe it's not a short-term rental bill, maybe it's something different, but any other thoughts?
Just to put a cap on what I'm saying, I think if you can find something that controls the problem ones and then keep them from clustering, that's I think my ultimate goal for this, with this ordinance. So, you know, it's not to damage the people that are putting the money into homes and fixing them up and making them, I mean, we want that, but we just don't want the parties and the nuisance, and again, the scenario of the cul-de-sac where you have 10 homes and 6 of them are short-term rentals, and I live on one of those 4 homes. No one wants that.
Right.
So,
I appreciate that direction. That's good.
All right,
Thank
with
you.
that, we will take a break until 7 o'clock.
Thank you, Mike.
Can I ask somebody,
Well, I need to find somebody.
who can fix this chair? I feel like my feet don't even touch the floor.
Those are my two favorite in the world. And this is my belief. Southfield basketball, 1974. Do shit over here. So, anyway. Oh, I love it. Oh, yeah. Man, he's made a big impact. I got to meet her. Christmas party. Big deal, man. Oh, yeah. Good to see you, man. Yes, how are you? Oh, I will love constituents. Even my wife's still interested.
Quite a few weeks.
No, all right.
It was kind of weird. I was under there like,
Okay, well,
took me like 3 times to tie it. It's like, just my stuff, just get down, enjoy time. Waking up. This is the first time I've watched it. Usually during summer, we're still super structured. Yes, my son has two programs 3 days a week. My daughter's and then we just do the summer school, so it's the health class of the summer. So we still have all of that together. But then, like, my wife's in baby mode right now. I love it because she's punching all this stuff that she walked into school like 6 years ago. She popped up into the elementary stuff is going away. She's middle school, she's like, do we really do this? But she doesn't feel like
And you have to be that way. You're not here.
she is. So I did. It looks like we're moving. We have more boxes upstairs and stuff we're donating to Goodwill and other organizations. And I really feel like she's like hiding in the garage. She's doing a fabulous job right now.
She's not gonna put you out of the box.
Hey, your little thing I have on here too. This is no big deal, right? The vacation, the right away.
No, it's like the same thing I did before.
Okay.
It's a dead end, it's just wood.
I just had my note there. It needs to be carefully viewed since we're an elected official, so I don't want to
So are we gonna remove that from the consent agenda so you can vote on everything else, or you just?
Oh, you can straighten that out.
The neighbor's
Who that is.
I'm splitting with the neighbor.
Okay.
And she can come and talk about
So
it.
you can vote no on the entire consent agenda?
I guess so. Roy just said just that. Just now.
That's fine. I don't think it makes a difference, that way you're free.
I'm just gonna pull the electrical contractor off the maintenance contract because in years past, they would give contracts to like 5 people.
This is low voltage.
No, the other one, the 250. They never did much.
You talk to?
They never answered any of my questions. So right here, electrical services repair on the agenda, electrical services repair. The thing is, in years past, they gave the contract to 5
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday, June 8th County Council meeting. We do not have a pastor for this evening, so we're going to have a moment of silence, and Councilman Matt Swanson is going to lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance. So if you please stand, take a pause. Thank you. Thank you. You may be seated. Please call the roll.
Councilman Swanson.
Here, ma'am.
Councilman Brazel.
Here.
Councilman Hammond. Councilman Elam.
Here.
Councilman Hollander.
Here.
Councilwoman York.
Here.
Councilman Baker.
Here. First item tonight is public comments. There is a clock in front of Mr. Swanson there that is going to show 3 minutes on it. At the end of 3 minutes, you'll hear an alarm that will let you know that your time is up. I will thank you for speaking, and we will move on to the next speaker. Normally, we do 3 for, 3 against on every issue, depending on the speakers that are here. Our first speaker tonight is
Bob Eno, regarding bill number 5490.
Y'all knew this was coming, so anyway, thank you all for doing this in the work session for our 5490. I do appreciate it. You know, the best way to describe this is this is not about the businesses, this is about the citizens, this is about the constituents, your constituents, the people that vote for you. You know, your job basically comes down to 2 words, and that's to serve and protect, you know. Nothing in this bill says that they can't have a short-term rental. Nothing in there. It just says that there's going to be a registration process, and they're going to pay for it. Not a profit. They're just going to pay for that process. It says that if they have too many complaints, that they can come out and inspect it and make sure that it's safe, and those kind of things don't happen again. I really urge you to take another look at this, put a couple things in there. I'm not concerned about the grandfathering. I think if somebody went to the expense to open a business in a short-term rental, that there should be some way for them to keep that. We can't force people to sell. That's not who America is, to sell your business in order to accommodate some regulation or rule. But I can't urge you enough to tell you that people are complaining. This is getting attention. It's getting attention. The Post-Dispatch has written about it. KTVI has written about it. And I receive a lot of text, social media, a lot of messenger stuff. People just saying, just keep going after it. We've got to get this done. But as I said before, this ordinance doesn't say you can't have one. That's not what it says. It doesn't say that, that if you have one that you're going to be forced to sell it. What it does say, it does protect the people that live in that subdivision, along that street, and a short-term rental next door. We have a whole issue problem down on my street. And if this was in place and we could begin to make complaints, call the police, do whatever it takes to get something done, we may not have the problem in a short term. As I said earlier, it's owned in Oregon, it's managed by a St. Charles company. They may even be in the audience right now. It appears to me that that company that's here in St. Charles managing this has a whole lot of these in St. Charles and around Missouri. And keep in mind, the lady that came here in the last one, when we were talking about this bill, she said, her words, you can look it up, the reason she came to St. Charles County and started because we didn't have regulations, period. And what does that say? That says it's the Wild West. St. Charles County gets referred to that a lot as the Wild West. It's always on the radio talking about it because there is freedom out here, and we weren't so hard on the COVID and so on and so forth. But I get off the subject. I urge you to really take another look at this. It's not that bad. A word or two, that's it. You know, this is a good ordinance. Roy did a good job. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
TJ Moe regarding bill number 5490.
Hi guys, thank you for taking some time to listen to me. I oppose this bill for a few reasons. So I grew up in St. Charles County, been here most of my life. I have one short-term rental now and am in the process of starting another one nearby, not within 600 feet, but it is close. The first one we took was a fire-damaged house that had been vacant for 3 years. We put about $200,000 into it, brought it back up to life, and every one of the neighbors around has thanked us for bringing it back and doing something with the house that was just going to sit there. That one has been very good. Again, the neighbors all contact us if there's any issues, and there aren't many, because it's to our benefit to make sure that there are no issues, because that's how you stay in business. The second one, now we bought for $190,000. We're putting $190,000 into it specifically to make it a short-term rental. You do designs differently, you have a team to come install, and that one's not in service yet. And so if an ordinance like this goes in, we're out all of the additional money that would have been used to make this something that would have been beneficial to us and beneficial to the city, because we pay 5% tax to the county. And so that is one of the top reasons we oppose it. There are a few others. This, as it relates to the occupancy that you guys are talking about, having just 2 per room would be amongst the most strict in the entire country. There is the North Carolina School of Government. They wrote a manual for local governments to adopt and trying to figure out how the country is going to deal with this. They say the most common is having 2 +2 to +4. Dallas has 3 per room. Lexington, Kentucky has 2 +2. Albuquerque has 2 +4, I believe. And Colorado Springs has 2 +4, 2 rooms +4 additional. And that's because you have these large places like the one that we're putting $190,000 in just renovations in as something that you have plenty of open space. There are 3 floors. It's very easy to put people in places when the bedrooms are just upstairs. So having just a blanket rule when you don't know anything about the house makes it very difficult. And the occupancy is the top driver of revenue. And so it's actually the predictor. If you bring it all the way down, it's a place that could have 12, but you bring it all the way down to 6, then suddenly it's not a profitable venture anymore, even though the house could easily hold that. Okay, so that is probably my top concern. The 600-foot rule, again, would be amongst the most restrictive in the country. Only blue cities and states are 600 to 1,000. Everybody else is between about 250 and 500, including St. Charles City. Last thing is just the grandfathering, which it seems like we're all on the same page there, that would be a big problem. So otherwise, thank you for your time hearing this.
Thank you.
Matt Becker, bill number 5490.
Good evening, guys. So my name is Matt Becker. I'm here on behalf of St. Charles Realtors tonight, and we're here to speak in opposition to any ordinance that would further restrict short-term rentals in St. Charles County. At its core, the issue is about private property rights. When someone purchases a home, pays property taxes, maintains the property, and complies with local laws, they should have the freedom to use that property in any lawful way that they see fit. The burden should be on government to justify taking away those rights, not on property owners to justify keeping them. I understand the concerns have been raised about noise, parking, nuisance issues, but those problems are not unique to short-term rentals. The homeowner can host a loud party. You've got long-term tenants that can cause parking problems and destroy homes. We have measures in place to already deal with those. We have ordinances and enforcement mechanisms to address bad behavior already in place. We should enforce those rules rather than creating new restrictions that impact every responsible property owner because of a few isolated incidents. Another concern is the precedent this creates. Today, the discussion is about short-term rentals, but tomorrow it could be another lawful use of private property. Government should be very careful about creating new restrictions that limit property owners and what they can do with their own homes. Property rights are not supposed to be granted by government, they are supposed to be protected by it. Once those rights are restricted, it becomes much easier to justify additional limitations in the future. There's also an economic factor to consider. Visitors that stay in short-term rentals spend money in our local restaurants, with our local businesses. They spend money in entertainment venues and small businesses. Those dollars stay here in St. Charles County and they benefit our local economy. Most importantly, we should also be careful not to create policies that pick winners and losers in the housing market. Hotels, large apartment operators, and corporate housing providers already have significant advantages in terms of scale, resources, and market presence. It simply shifts the demand away from individual property owners and towards larger commercial interests. Government should not be in the business of limiting competition or protecting one segment of the lodging industry at the expense of homeowners who are simply seeking to make lawful use of their property. A fair marketplace allows consumers to choose where they stay and allows property owners to compete on equal footing. If there are legitimate concerns, let's address that behavior. Enforce the noise ordinances, enforce parking regulations, hold bad actors accountable, but do not punish responsible property owners and limit private property rights because the actions of a small minority. I respectfully ask the council to reject additional restrictions on short-term rentals and instead support policies that protect both neighborhoods and the rights of property owners that are already in place and exist. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
James Boudreau on Bill number 5490 and Bill number 5496.
Good evening. My name is James Pludre, and I'm a Republican candidate for County Council in District 7. I just watched you spend the work session rightfully trying to protect county neighborhoods from short-term rentals. I also see you're introducing a multifamily zoning bill tonight that does nothing. It's a toothless election year sham bill designed to give you political cover. Yet, one block away at City Hall, a planning and zoning commission is deciding whether to place 50 high-density rentals on Mugie Road. Leadership is not defined by property lines or bureaucratic excuses. It is defined by who stands for residents and when their quality of life is threatened. We know what real leadership looks like in the county. And Mr. Brazel, you are constantly on the front lines, relentlessly fighting for your people, crossing boundaries, and aggressively defending zoning against predatory developers. You don't make excuses about boundary lines, and you stand for the people. We have other areas of the county, such as duck clubs and other places, that need this kind of protection other than just a historic winery district. We need more champions who will use their platform to advocate for single-family neighborhoods across St. Charles. Our neighborhoods are watching, and we remember who fought for us when August 4th arrives. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thomas Maynard regarding erosion completion project.
I'd like to thank the St. Charles County Council for allowing us to speak. We were here on May the 31st, and we're back for the continuing problem with the property that's not being finished on Natchez and Heritage Landing. It's the Groundworks Company, and you'll see since we were here on the 31st, they showed up one Friday and worked 8 hours. Came back Monday and worked 2 hours. We haven't seen them since. It's been another week. It's like they had a excavator over there. They took the excavator and took off with it. We went out that day and came home and it was gone. It's almost like it's just job abandonment. They're just not finishing this thing. put the other picture up, what it used to look like. This is what it used to look like across the street, you know, where it's like a park setting. And then the other picture that's up there is pretty much what's been destroyed. What my question is Tim Baker, Rob Wiley, a lot of good folks here have been trying to help us as much as they can. I think the problem is we need to get the people that are accountable here at the county council meeting and make them answer questions for you guys, such as Steve Randall. I think he's with, I think it's wrong, Horner and Schifrin. They're a consultant. You know, while they were working on this thing, these people were out here every day, soil consultants and packing soil in against this and that, and they were doing surveying work. We haven't seen hide nor hair of nobody. They've just left this pothole sitting over there. And, you know, if anybody in here, I'm sure everybody has nice homes. You want to live across the street from a quarry that wasn't there. I've been there 25 years. It wasn't like that when I moved in. And we need it fixed. And, you know, I don't know what we can do at this point. I've heard about performance bonds. I've heard about things we can pull and this and that. So I don't know what can be done, but I don't think these people should be allowed to continue to work in St. Charles County when they can't finish a job. And I think, do you have anything you want to add?
And I like it to restore back to the way it was. It's quoted here that apparently you had $140,000 in liquidated damages to date, and we have withheld payment on that account. So maybe $5,000, we could get our trees and bushes back, because how is grass gonna grow in July? It's not gonna happen, you know that.
Yeah.
So, I was just, like any help any of yous have, I've called Steve Randall back in February, he said it was gonna be done, he said grass will be growing by March 31st. Then I called him back, he said, okay, give us 2 to 4 weeks. That's the end of April, and it's gonna be a year. July will be a year since, and we've had Johnny on the spots, we've had sheds, we've had tractors, we've had bulldozers. It's just, we need your help.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank
what
you.
else.
Thank you.
Clifford Morris, Erosion Control Project and Heritage.
Thank you for your time. I live right across the street from Tom, and there's a mess there. I mean, it's just an eyesore. Probably hurt property values. I guess our taxes will be lower. But so I'm concerned about that. So Steve Randall came by last April. I signed 3 temporary easements and 1 permanent easement for them to do work. And we were told this one part of our front yard was going to be created better, it's going to be easier to mow. Now what we have left is a stretch of my front yard that's probably got at least 15, maybe a 20-foot drop. That is steep, goes down to rocks. And I can't get the guy, this Steve Randall, I can't get him to come, you know, talk to him. So I did send him off another email today, because the last one I sent was like 4 weeks ago, and I said, when it's convenient for you, I want to set up a time where I can meet you face to face, so you can come look at this and tell me what you're going to do about it, because it's really dangerous. If, you know, we're both, I'm in my mid-70s, and that thing's dangerous. You go down that thing, you're in trouble. He said he's going to put up a chain link fence down by the creek. Well, he can do that as common ground, but that doesn't help if you're going to fall down the thing. And I just want some solution to that slope being corrected. I mean, if they're not going to do it, I guess I can get my own landscape contractor to come in there and fix it all safe, but then I'd like to be reimbursed somehow. You know, it's just, you know, I kind of let them do a lot, not complain a lot about, but it's been too long. I was told when they signed this, they'd be done at my place last October. No, they were the end of October. They finished it up about April and left, but they left this mess, thing you can't mow. And so I'm like Tom, I'm looking for some kind of answer. So where do we go from here? What kind of pressure can we put on them to fix this problem? I want to thank you for your time. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Paige Kelly, regarding Waterford Crossing, a non-agenda item.
Good evening. My name is Paige Kelly. I'm a homeowner in Waterford Crossing and a lifelong St. Charles County resident. You might recognize my name from your emails last week. I have spent substantial time trying to get a simple issue addressed, a failing road that residents use every day and that your own leadership has already acknowledged belongs to the county. I want to start with what should be the least controversial statement in this room. Residents deserve safe, maintained infrastructure. That is the baseline expectation for what taxpayers fund and what is, to this day, we are not receiving. Over the past 2 years, myself and many others in our neighborhood have worked through the proper channels extensively. What we have consistently encountered is not resolution or accountability, but deflection. Most recently, you'll see in the top image that my repair ticket for the newest large pothole was closed last week without repair, citing that this issue is under legal review. This is the same attempt to reset the issue back to square one as if the past 2 years never happened. The problem with that approach is I have documentation to ensure the record is clear. As shown in the bottom 2 images from last summer, both Mike Elam and Robert Wiley acknowledged in writing that this roadway belongs to St. Charles County. They even went a step further, committing to a full replacement, specifically this year in 2026. So I have to ask, why are we still here? Why has this allegedly been under legal review for 2 full years? And just as importantly, how much taxpayer money has been spent reviewing this issue instead of fixing it? Residents are paying into a system that appears to be spending time, energy, and public funds debating responsibility for a road that your own leadership has already acknowledged and committed to fix. Residents deserve to know what that has cost. In addition to the failing road, traffic conditions alone should be alarming to every person in this room. During school pickup and drop-off, cars line up and block the roadway in both directions. Eastbound traffic toward Highway K stacks up from parents parking on the street to wait for their children. Westbound traffic coming off of Highway K cannot move because of parents waiting to turn into school. The road simply becomes impassable, and further, many children walking in and out of cars. All of this creates a serious public safety issue. Emergency vehicles would simply not be able to access our neighborhood or the businesses near us. If your own children or elder parents lived in our neighborhood, would you accept that level of risk? Now on top of all of that, we're seeing survey stakes marking a future connection to Outer 364 directly in front of our subdivision. It's difficult to understand how increasing traffic is even being considered on a road that is already failing and has been so difficult to get addressed. So I'm here today respectfully asking for your help in moving this forward to make sure this gets resolved. I'm asking for a clear acknowledgement of the commitments already on record, a timeline for repair and full replacement, and accountability to ensure that it actually happens. Please help in bringing this to a resolution and ensuring our community receives the safe infrastructure it deserves. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't forget your...
Oh, thank you.
Laura Sipes regarding a tutorial on Liberty.
My name is Laura Sipes, and thank you for this opportunity to speak to you tonight. My ancestor was Edward Doty. He came over on the Mayflower as a servant to Stephen Hopkins. He was a signer of the Mayflower Compact. He was a servant, but he worked to make sure that he was the richest man in the colony by the time that he died. He was also the first man to fight a duel, and he was the first man to be cited for peace disturbance. He left England so he didn't have to live under a king. He wanted to be a citizen and not a subject. He was the signer of the Mayflower Compact, and he insisted the most important statement in that Mayflower Compact that government could only exist by the consent of the governed. And it also became the basis of the United States Constitution, or one of the most important bases, that we only exist by the consent of the governed. Daniel Sipes, my ancestor, marched at Valley Forge as a barefoot soldier and lost his toes to frostbite so he didn't have to live under a king, so that he could be a citizen and not a subject. His dad stayed home, Paul Sipes, on the farm, but at night he acted as a saboteur to the British, blowing up British food supplies, bridges, and important British positions so he didn't have to live under a king, so that he could be a citizen and not a subject. My uncle Walker Sipes, also known as Cotton Sipes, lost his life over occupied France in World War I, so I could be free, so that I could be a citizen and not be a subject. Millard and Curtis Sipes, my father and his brother, were at Attu and at Honolulu. My father, they fought in World War II so I could be free and be a citizen and not a subject. Ben Franklin said, "Those who would give up essential liberty for a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty or safety." And in East Germany, the Stasi generated a surveillance state that you were attempting to instill on the people here in this county through flock cameras. It caused widespread paranoia. It caused mental illness, economic decline, and extreme abuses of power by the government. I'm here today to tell you that I do not consent to being spied on by flock cameras. I'm here today to tell you to give me liberty. I will not give you my liberty for temporary safety, and I demand you remove the flock cameras immediately, and that you apologize to the citizens of this county. It is not your right to spy on someone everywhere they go. And I want to know if you've researched the people that are storing this data. Peter Thiel and Palantir, he appears over 2,300 times in the Epstein files. You are in direct violation of the Constitution, the Supreme Court, in Carpenter versus the U.S. It says you cannot track citizens without probable cause. Turn off the flock cameras, take them down, don't spy on me, bro, and apologize to the citizens of this county. Give me liberty or give me death.
Amen. Thank you.
Arnie Dienoff regarding parks, court case, and debate.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, members of the council. My name is Arnie C. A.C. Dienoff, County Public Advocate, running for County Executive. First of all, I want to address, and hopefully Mr. Brazel will address, the total replacement of the entire roof of this building. If we're going to do it, let's get it done right the first time. Let's force the insurance, and if the insurance doesn't want to cooperate and be a team player, let's take them to circuit court. We need to make sure that this roof is replaced on the dime of the insurance company. The next two issues I'd like for the council to hold and table for more discussion: bills number 5490, short-term rentals, and 5491, fireworks, so the fireworks industry and contractors can appear and be part of this equation and discussion. For the past 10 days, it appears to be we have county police vehicles inside the Bush compound on Missouri Highway 79. And so I asked the police chief, is there an active and ongoing police investigation into the death of Stephen Bush? I was told that this is being paid totally privately, being paid for by the family or others, and is not at taxpayers' expense. I'm highly disgusted and highly embarrassed by the county hiring a City of Chicago-based consultant firm, Hassel Levine and Associates, to the tune of a minimum of $400,000 to $600,000, including their expenses and travel. I am not a happy camper with their plan. I do not like the lack of effort and the lack of thought that they have put into our 2040 comprehensive master land and zoning plan. I'm astonished that they did not even have the audacity to show up last Thursday at the County Master Plan Steering Committee, but yet they appeared before via the county WebEx. Steve Ellman and Brian Ludwig, Assistant Director of Administration, didn't even bother to appear. Our County Development and Planning and Zoning Division staff could have done a much better job in-house, could have saved taxpayers of upwards of $600,000. Before the meeting, unfortunately, the elevator got stuck, and I'm glad that the door opened for Steve Ellman. Please, let's try to get the elevator fixed so no other residents or county officials get stuck in the elevator. The county executive debate. The debate was unfair, unethical, unprofessional, just flat out wrong. My name was never offered as a choice to voter survey poll takers. Steve Ellman, you never stood up for me to protest that the debate was not fair by not including and asking me to participate in the stage debate. Shame on you, shame on my own Republican County Party leaders, shame on the County Central Committee. Even the husband of the County Vice Chair, Deb McFarland's husband, viciously assaulted me, tried to break my wrist.
Thank you, Mr. Dino.
The final speaker.
Thank you.
Thank you. That'll get us to oral report from the county executive.
One of the things, just wanted to address some of the issues down with Natchez Trail. Tom and Mary have been very helpful to bring some of these to our attention. We did have contact with Horner and Schifrin through the Highway Department. The reason they showed up the Friday and Monday they did is 'cause we threatened to revoke their performance bond. That got them off the stick, but apparently it wasn't enough to keep them coming back. I know today it was pouring rain, so I called in to see if they had planned to be there today or not, and never heard back. So what John Lyons, the highway director, and I have committed to is we're gonna be on them every day. We'll call them every day and find out where they are, why aren't they doing what they said they're gonna do. They are already about $140,000 in liquidated damages. So there is some money there that maybe we can use if we need to. I really would like not to pull the bond, because what it means is we potentially have to start all over again, and I don't want these folks having to wait any longer than they have. So our commitment is to just keep pushing them and keep moving them to try to make them show up and do what they said they're gonna do.
I got a question.
Hang on a second, start with Patty first.
I just want to know, what is it? Is it a retention basin? Is it,
It
what
was a
is
flood
it that,
remediation area back in Heritage.
who's in charge of the actual, is it the county
Yes,
that's
yes, ma'am.
doing this? Okay.
Yeah, it's ARPA funds that the federal money, federal dollars were used to buy out some of the properties to mitigate the flood. And started working on it. We did have a couple of hiccups there. They had a 72-inch water main break, which delayed things. They hit some bedrock, which delayed things, but nothing that would explain the amount of time it's taken them to complete to this point.
Thank you.
Could we do this under an emergency ordinance? Pull their performance bond and get a contractor under, we've already saved $140,000 that we're not paying this contractor. Could we do this under emergency ordinance, because time is of the essence with regards to this grant, and go that route?
I would refer that to Rory or Joanne.
I'll just speak from experience, because we have once or twice pulled a bond, and Councilman Brazel may remember the straight line winds over the airport, and what a disaster we had up there. The bonding company's gonna have some say over what happens. Now, if they are not out there tomorrow, the very next time it's not raining, we can go to the bonding company and say, we wanna pull the bond, because they're not, and they actually can bring somebody in faster than we can, if they'll agree to do that.
Okay, two names I want to remind the council of. One is Groundworks, who, by the way, is doing a bunch of slab repair for us, and they're out there every day. So I don't know why that's such a priority over this job. So Groundworks and Horner and Schifrin. I've seen a bunch of contracts with Horner and Schifrin that we give to design our parks. I think they did Spring Bend. Just remember this, because the next time they come up with a contract, I'm gonna vote no, and I ask all you guys to consider the same. We've got somebody that we hired that won't even return our residents' calls. That's the easiest part of what we do. So, I'm a little bit upset that we're a year after this water main break, and we're still no better off than we were a year ago. So please remember those two names. Thank you.
Mr. Brazel.
I'd just like to say, how much money is owed to the contractor? Have they been paid in full?
No,
Well,
they've
how
not.
much money is on the table, do we know?
They still have more work than,
So $140,000, you guys are saying is under penalty.
Liquidated damages.
That's gonna be, if we owe them less than $140,000?
no, so right now, they have been paid up to the point where if there were no liquidated damages, they would still be owed $180,000 and some change. So technically, there's still.
So their $40,000 are gonna cash out of this thing. I mean, Rob, I'm gonna say this, you guys, I think you kinda let the citizens down on this, because if you have a performance bond, that's what they're for. A year later, nothing's going on? I don't know why, John, we didn't just pull the bond and get other bids and get it going.
Well, again, you gotta remember, with all the deadlines with the ARPA stuff, as soon as we did that, then we gotta get another contractor in there, again, on the.
I know, but then something's happening.
Well, I get that, but we didn't wanna lose the funding either. I mean,
Well,
cause
there's a
they got, cause when it started up in this. Well, when it started up in the spring, we weren't too worried about it, right? Like, they were making progress when they started up in the spring. And then it just kind of fizzled out. And I don't have a good explanation, because we can't get good answers out of them. But we have been tracking everything, so we've been making sure we didn't overpay them. But with the ARPA funds, everything has to be spent this year. anything not spent this year, we don't get reimbursed for. And so when, let's say March, maybe March is when we would have been like, okay, maybe we should be
Are you
considering.
talking about 25, you're talking about 26?
No, we're talking about 26, March of 26.
alright.
Because technically we were hoping the project was gonna be completed tail end last winter, late fall, early winter last year. That's when it was supposed to be completed. So they didn't make it, that happens, you get into a winter delay, that happens. But when things didn't progress this spring, we did have a discussion about, what do we wanna do? Do we wanna let them try and finish things up? Do we wanna try and go down this, pulling the bond route? If we pull the bond, and then that gets bogged down with the bonding company, things don't move as fast as we want to, now the project is delayed more than, because, for the most part, they're down to wrapping things up, supposed to be. I mean, finishing up a few items, all the pipes in the ground, finishing a few gaving baskets, getting some grading done, getting some seating things done, should have been pretty minor things. So from looking at it on paper, it made sense, let them finish rather than risk we not getting the project done on time and then we forfeit grant funds at the end of the year.
But basically, the bond would cover if we got non-funded, the bond should cover that. Right? It's the way it should work. And so here's the thing, is we have all these contracts with all these different contractors. We have contracts for a reason. We have contracts to stick by them. And if this company is screwing these people over like they are, and the county's not defending them as they should, because they're your clients, and we're not doing our job, bottom line. We're not doing our job, I'm just saying. And I'm not criticizing John, I'm just saying, we don't settle on this stuff. You just get it taken care of, and you move forward in a positive direction. And we're not doing that.
Having grant funds just threw another wrench into the mix. If it hadn't been grant funds, I think things would have gone differently. So.
Well, I know, but it's just seems like one excuse after the next for these folks.
I understand.
Just keep it, we got a deadline, so.
Yep, so we're gonna keep pushing them as best we can.
Anything else from the county executive?
That situation, which is a good,
Oh, yeah.
school exam question.
Yes, the issue that Ms. Page brought up, and she is correct. We had worked on it last year, and we thought we had a deal where we would bring the road up to spec and then dedicate it to the city of Dardenne Prairie, since it serves their residents. The deal fell through because the council, the Dardenne Prairie City Council, said that the section where Waterford Crossing connects to Highway K was the property of O'Fallon, and that we didn't have the right to give it to them. So it has been a bit of a legal fight over that one little patch where it connects into Highway K. We talked today and talked with Mr. Elam today, and we are gonna go ahead and we're gonna fix the road. There's some complications for traffic. The road isn't wide enough to like close a lane and still let traffic through, so we have some logistics to work through to make sure that we can still get traffic in and out of that subdivision. As you said, that's their only way in and out, primarily. As of this morning, Director Lyons and I talked, and we're gonna get the project moving. There's still gonna be some legal issues on that intersection, but we'll get through it. We fixed the pothole there the first time. I wasn't aware that it had gotten that bad again until Ms. Page sent the email. And so we're gonna go out and do the short-term repairs, so that's a safer place, but then move our plans forward to replace the road. Can't you add some temporary asphalt as a bypass? It's the width of the road is the problem. So to put a milling machine out there, it's not wide enough we'd have to close the whole road.
The bypass would be in O'Fallon's property, and they're the ones that aren't working with us.
Yeah, or use the school.
O'Fallon has both sides of the road and the intersection annex.
Okay, we just have the pavement? Oh,
Yeah.
nice.
Basically.
So that's been the issue.
That's really been the whole thing, is that whole section. It was originally MoDOT, and then it was O'Fallon, and she's right about everything that she said. She's 100% right about everything. The problem is you get into all this jurisdiction, and it's government pointing fingers at each other, and I get it, super frustrating. It's just, we can't go fix their road. They don't want us fixing their road, but we can't fix that road without their permission to get involved. And then we had a deal with Dardenne Prairie, we thought, to bring the road up, and then Dardenne Prairie said no, and now Dardenne Prairie's got a new city administrator who doesn't know anything about any discussions that happened before. So it's lovely making of the sausage is at the end of the day what it is. But in the meantime, you've got a very narrow road that is very busy, that has a very busy car wash, because Highway K is filled with car washes that keeps going in and out. And then you've got a middle school that is the busiest middle school in the Fort Zumwalt School District, because all 3 of my kids went there. And that road is crammed with cars all over the place, and then that leads to a subdivision, which is back to you. That road also leads back to the Renaud Center. So trying to figure out how are we going to be able to fix this, because the damage is right in the middle of the road. So to their point, you can't shut down a lane and move it over because it's right in the middle. So it's taken a lot more logistics than what anybody cared to. So we need to figure out how are we going to be able to do that without making your life even more complicated by trying to fix it and having nowhere to send the traffic. So it's being addressed is the short answer of what's coming. And I'm sorry that you had to go through a year of back and forth and government pointing at each other. So I apologize for that, but it's going to get done.
Is there any consideration to widen it with the new cut-through coming through,
So
more traffic?
again, that intersection part, not ours. So we can't do that without O'Fallon saying we can do that.
O'Fallon, I don't know if you saw Michael Snowden reply to the email, basically, again, hands up, not ours.
Yeah, everybody on the planet thinks it's O'Fallon except O'Fallon.
Yeah. Right, that's been the whole thing. MoDOT says it's O'Fallon, Darden Prairie says it's O'Fallon, we say it's O'Fallon, O'Fallon says it's not. So,
But even though they linked in the email, you and Mr. Wiley linked in the email that you guys were gonna take it as of this year.
That was the plan with Darden Prairie until they backed out on it.
Oh, so you were just gonna take it until you skipped it?
We were gonna, yeah, we were gonna bring it up to spec and then deed it to the city of Darden Prairie.
Okay, so since they said no, you guys are not.
no, we're
back to
fixing
the
it.
drawing board, basically, so we're.
With all due respect, how about if we sidebar this and we'll have a conversation so the rest of the county doesn't have to listen to our back and forth? So, at the end of the day though, I'm sorry, is where we're at. John, thank you. Do you have anything else? With that, that'll wrap up county executive report. It'll get us to consent agenda. Any items to be removed from the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion to accept the consent agenda?
A second?
I have a motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
I abstain. I abstain.
You abstain.
Yeah.
So noted. We have no bills for final passage. We have one bill for introduction, Bill 5496.
Bill number 5496, requested by Mike Elam and Matt Swanson, sponsored by Mike Elam and Matt Swanson. An ordinance establishing a temporary moratorium on multifamily residential zoning applications within unincorporated St. Charles County, Missouri.
Questions or comments on this bill? Mr. Baker?
Yeah, what's the reason for this, since we have not approved an apartment development, at least in the 3.5 years I've been on council, we haven't approved any. So what precipitating this ordinance?
So you and Mr. Swanson both sit on the master plan committee. So what we're doing, there is obviously a lot of conversations about apartments. Some people feel very passionate about apartments. So when you're looking at how do apartments fit in to the county housing program, there's not a better time to look at that than while you're doing the master plan. So while you guys are considering the master plan, it seemed like the ideal time to sit down and figure out how do apartments figure into this. But just to be clear, we're not going, not that there's any, bless you, TJ, not that there's anything pending before us right now, because we have no apartments pending. Nobody's put anything forward. But this is giving us an opportunity to say, don't even bring us anything. We're not even going to consider it. We're going to give the opportunity with the master plan committee to sit down and look at this and figure out how do apartments fit in. One of the issues that you run into, and Matt talked about it a little bit with housing, is we've got to figure out how do we keep our kids and what role does that play? I don't know about you guys, but I didn't go from my parents' house to a house. I went from my parents' house to apartment to apartment to apartment to apartment, and finally, when my wife got pregnant, we moved into a house. But until then, there was a role that you kind of play with housing and rentals until you get to a point where you can afford a house or where you figure out where do you want to put down roots. But right now in our county, and I have realtors in the room that can correct me pretty quick, but the average price of a home in our county is well over $350,000 to $400,000. The average price of a new home is over $600,000 in our county. Our kids can't afford that. They just can't. And if you read the Business Journal story that Ness Sandoval had out and talking about the schools, and the City of St. Louis School District over the last 20 years has gone from 44,000 kids to 16,000 kids. We have seen a decline of 7.7%, I think you said, for St. Charles School District. I want to say Francis House 6.3, and Zumwalt it's 8.3, decline in kids. So the point there is we don't have young families who are moving into our community in the numbers that we used to. Our fastest growing demographic over the last 5 years has been 60 plus adults. So we better figure out, nothing wrong with 60 plus adults, I may be one of those, but I'm just saying we need kids for a healthy community. We need young families for a healthy community. And there are different roles that different real estate plays. I'm not here to advocate for apartments, but I am here to say, while we're doing a master plan, seemed like the ideal time to just hit pause on this stuff and give you guys and the rest of the master plan committee an opportunity to study it. Mr. Swanson.
Yeah, and Mr. Baker, one of the things when I talked to Mr. Elam about this is at our last meeting we had, we didn't even really get into this topic. And that's just a committee. I want, when they bring the master plan to us collectively, to have a deeper conversation on it. So I thought the 6 months gives us plenty of time to move forward on it, because as you and I discussed at the meeting, UDOs and zoning and all of that fun stuff, we need to bring all of us elected officials in on this topic.
Is 6 months enough? I mean, I don't know why I guess I'm just trying to wrap my arms around why we're just doing a 6 month moratorium.
To answer that question, 6 months, we can always extend it. 6 months, I figured that was just a nice number to choose with it all. I mean, there was any deeper conversation. 6 months, half a year, we should have the master plan in front of us within the next couple of months, is what they said during our meeting.
So was our intent to try to limit apartments in our master plan?
I think it goes back to what we discussed with the zoning of looking at the map and where do we think something would be appropriate or not appropriate. And we didn't even have that deep conversation during our meeting.
You're right, we didn't.
And that's why I think the elected officials are the ones who really should have that conversation.
Okay.
Are you talking about discussing it within the next 6 months?
Yes.
Hopefully we'll get the master plan in front of us soon.
Do we have to wait to the master plan to put this on a?
They're still finalizing.
We don't have to, but there is a whole master plan committee that's currently working.
I know that.
It just seems ideal to put it in front of them now and let them see how it figures into housing. Yes, sir.
I agree with Tim on this. If you're saying 6 months, that's right after the November election. It seems to me that it could potentially look like this is just a political talking point. It should say in here, a moratorium shall remain in effect until the council repeals it. It shouldn't have 6 months in here because it's otherwise meaningless, because if we extend it, we gotta re-vote on it, but we should have to come together to repeal it. I will support it if it says that. Otherwise, it's just a talking point it's useless.
I would agree.
Well, if you wait until you have the master plan, you're gonna have a better idea of what it says, and should we have apartments or should we not?
I don't need a master plan or a $400,000 consultant to tell me we need apartments in this county. We don't need apartments in this county. And the other thing is this whole master plan thing is kind of a joke, because we were starting on that. We were supposed to have that last year, and it just keeps getting postponed. And then that meeting they had last week, they weren't even there. And so, you know, you've got these consultants from Chicago, and we've never done that before, if I remember. Hired a consultant for this kind of stuff when it should be input from the citizens. I don't understand any of it. I don't like it. So, no, it should be, apartments should be on, they should be banned until we revisit it with the council, and we should have our master plan delivered to us, to the council, like within a month, because it's just, everything's getting pushed because the election season. I get it, but it's not right. It's just not right. And so, that's my 2 cents.
Okay, yeah, I'd like to point out that just reading this on the surface, it would seem that there's a moratorium because there's a problem. There isn't a problem. In my 18 years on the council, we've approved one, and that was part of a bigger project, apartment complex, okay? So it's kind of, I mean, having a moratorium on something that really is not a problem, at least it hasn't been, is just, to me, now, and I can see the reasoning with the, you know, what's coming up, you know, in the next months with what we're working on in the master plan, you know. So that's just my point, you know. It just seems like we're having a moratorium on something that's not even happening.
Mr. Baker?
Yeah, I would just say, I would agree with Joe. I think it's just a moratorium, and let's take it from there. If we as a council want to end that moratorium, then we can do that at a later date. But 6 months, I just don't understand the 6 month time frame. I mean, it's just not making a lot of sense to me.
Rory?
Yeah, there's legal problems with doing a permanent moratorium. 6 months is pretty much the limit of what would be, what is at least the case law has said is something that a council can do. So it might be what you'd like to do, but I don't believe that it would be on legally safe territory to do that.
County Executive.
Question for Rory. Yeah, I mean, they can pass an ordinance and just take apartments as a permissive use out of the ODO, right?
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a place in there for apartments. We haven't approved any, well, we approved one in the last 19 years, but it's still there if somebody wants to come and ask for it.
Right.
So, you know, if you don't want any apartments ever, then that's what you do. You take it out. But I don't think anybody really wants to do that. So studying it, you know, looking at it, waiting, if somebody brings it in the next 6 months, we can just say, we're not gonna look at this for 6 months. I think that's what you're talking about doing. If I could, in the back, I have, some numbers that Mike Hurlbert put together. If somebody could put that up in the back.
Can you make sure your mic's on?
And this is something for staff with regards to UDO. Could we just have all apartments as a conditional use permit, not in any permissive zoning? And that would solve a lot of the issues, because then we as the elected body could decide each one if we even want that.
That would be in the master plan.
Well, it'd be in our UDO when they draft the ordinance based off the master plan steering committee, because there's a lot of stuff that we need to cover during, and one of them is data centers. We're gonna have to face that issue, and we wanna make sure that there's a conditional use permit.
Mr. Executive.
Okay, I'm not able to read it from here, but what this shows is every year, and it has how many apartments were approved by each political subdivision in that year. Is there any way that they can, well, anyway, if you look at ours, it's 000 except for that 1 year. But what's more interesting is if you look at the overall, at the beginning of this 19-year period, it was anywhere from 16 to 20% of the new residences, the new permits were for apartments. And then it started going up a little bit, and in I think 20, 21, and 22, it got up to 40%. I mean, and I think that's when everybody really realized what's going on here. My inclination at the time was, gee, you know, I believe in the market. I guess there's a market for these things, or people wouldn't be investing in them. But I think the people may have overestimated the market, because if you look, it started going down, and I think last year, or 2 years ago, it got back down to 16%. And then this year went up a little bit more than that. So I guess my point here is, I think we were building way too many apartments for a certain length of time. I'm not sure we still are, but this is why we can do a moratorium, we can look at this and get an idea where we want to go from here.
Can we get a copy of that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Could you
yeah.
send that
We'll
to
get,
us?
we'll get that to everybody, and again, it's the people who are raising it as an issue, it really was an important issue of 3 or 4 years ago. It's trending in the right direction, yeah, I mean, I can't, it's that one time that we approved those apartments, and I don't really think most people realize that it's hard to get anything like that past you guys and past me, so I don't see it. I don't see it coming, and I don't see it as a big issue. I think we'll probably continue to this kind of trend, but that's why we have a process every 7 years to look at a master plan.
Do we have any stick over these municipalities, like the road board funds, to try to, I mean, the problems, we all know, the problems in the county are from these municipalities. I mean, you drive around my district, it's St. Peter's. Is there any stick that we could carry to swing at these municipalities to try to get them to comply, or is it just it's the toothpaste is out of the tube right now?
Well, without taking the time and giving an entire history of the road board and the transportation funds, Councilman York may remember this as a former mayor, but 40 years ago, the problem was nobody trusted anybody. Every city was against each other, and nobody trusted the county, and we didn't trust them. It was a great accomplishment getting that thing passed. And we have had to go back to the voters 4 different times. Most recently, we went back and got 78% approval to continue to do it. And the reason I think the voters gave us 78% is we have never used it as leverage against anybody. We have had a fair, independent process where, we get people from each of the cities and the unincorporated areas, you get on the road board, there's hearings, people come in, there's a process. The road board makes a recommendation, sends it to me, I send it to you, you all approve it, I get to veto it if I don't like it. But we've never used transportation funds to leverage, again, I don't want to start doing that. If we start doing that, people are gonna accuse us of using it for other political purposes.
Fair enough.
And even though this is not political, it's about apartments, so.
Mr. Hollander.
Good question, but I just want to give you a good answer.
I was under the impression when Mr. Swanson was talking that it was going to be a discussion of, the apartments with, not just the unincorporated, but with the municipalities also. And is that the case, or is it just something that we are going to be discussing?
I would hope we can bring in the municipalities and collectively start working better together on this. As the county executive said, there is some old history between the county versus the cities, and I'd like to see us all get on the same page with this.
Okay.
It's gonna be tough.
Is this working?
Yeah, my point is that, we're in a position where, we would be, talking to the municipalities about something that a problem that they have created, okay, if it is a problem, okay, and.
Mr. Brazel.
I guess my button got cut off, but,
None of them are working.
oh, none of them are working. Couple of things, to Terry's point. I think doing a resolution, if it doesn't have an expiration date on it, or something, whatever Rory says is probably right, I guess, but it sends a message to the cities that that's what we're thinking. This is what we should do collectively. The other thing is these apartments, if you guys followed, you can run the numbers on these. Most of these get federal funding, and they get federal funding for these big developers out of state. And they're building these things for tax breaks, these conglomerate companies. And then you will see that, and down the road, they usually go to HUD, they get their tax credits, and they go to low-income living. That's what will happen. Second of all, with let's see, what was your other point, Terry? I just talked about, on the apartments, they are problematic because the cities are putting them in at a high rate, but we cannot keep up with the infrastructure. And as you know, St. Charles County government forward funded $130 million from county money into state roads, $130 million in 5 years, which we only got back $30 million. That's all we got back, because we're trying to keep up with the state infrastructure, because MoDOT does a terrible job. And so we are forward funding state projects with county money because we have to. We don't really have a choice, but we're not getting paid back for it. So the taxpayers are paying twice. They're paying state taxes, and they're paying county taxes. So it's so screwed up, it's unbelievable. So these apartments are causing those problems. That's why Highway N is a parking lot disaster. Highway 40 is a disaster. And so it just has to stop and be collectively come up with a plan. And as far as the city's not following, I don't know why the county wouldn't say we're not going to give you county road funds if you don't comply with our master plan. Would it be legal? I don't know, but they'd have challenges in court. I mean, so it would be worth it. You say, you guys aren't getting any county funding because you don't comply. You're building all these apartments, you're building all these high-density houses, you're creating problems for everyone in the county, so we're not going to fund your county projects anymore. Okay, sure, it'd be a challenge, but that's what you should do. That's my thoughts, anyway.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Seeing none?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Just one correction. I think you said 131, it was 191 million.
Was it 190?
191.
A man of our told me 130.
Yeah, but you're right about your description. The other thing is on the, I don't know what percentage of these are subsidized. Again, none of them are subsidized in the unincorporated areas. But my understanding is the subsidies are all for seniors. There's no low-income subsidies that I'm aware of for a long, long time. So yeah, they are, HUD is involved and there are subsidies, but my understanding is most, if not all of them, are for seniors, not for,
I do have a chart on it. I got it from government or someone, and it's got a chart on which ones did go on HUD and stuff. And once you go to an apartment complex, you have no say on that, okay? Right or wrong. A community has no say on if something's gonna go HUD or NECAC. We have no say. It's against equal opportunity and all that stuff, which is fine, but the citizens need to know that. So when they're building all these apartment complexes, eventually there's a very high propensity that they will be low income, NECAC and HUD. That's just the way it is.
I'm not disputing that, but I would tell you, because Todd Barnes was here before he left Community Council, and the issue that, I'll call them the at-risk population, I think that's how we're referring to them these days. But the problem in St. Charles County was all of the apartment complex that used to accept the vouchers, remember how they used to have Section 8 housing, and like the complex was Section 8? From the way I understand it, they don't do that anymore. Like a complex isn't Section 8. They have a voucher program.
Individual.
That an individual.
Correct. Yes, that's
so
true.
They give them the voucher that they can use. The problem that Community Council was talking about is in St. Charles County, none of the apartments accept the vouchers anymore. So if they start accepting the vouchers, you have to do it for 10 years. You have to accept them for 10 years. But what they started doing here, because all these new apartments started getting built and they're all like crazy expensive, that the older apartments came off of the voucher program as soon as they could, and they said, we're not accepting that anymore, and they went to market rate, which is why we've got apartments here that are literally 40 years old, at least the ones I know in North O'Fallon that I was thinking of. It's a 40-year-old apartment, but they're getting $1,100 a month for a 40-year-old apartment. And they don't accept the voucher programs. So the at-risk community doesn't even have that. The only places that I know that do the voucher programs are senior housing. There are some senior housing complexes that they accept the voucher programs, but you have to be a senior to be able to use those. So I don't know where all this stuff is going to go. It just seemed like it was a natural time while we're doing this to be able to look at it, and it's been a hot topic of conversation, so it makes sense, in my mind at least, for us to study it. Any action to be taken on any of the tabled bills? Seeing none, that'll get us to announcements and miscellaneous. Yes, sir.
It is a New Melly Festival this weekend. You guys can't miss it. They sell more gizzards than any other festival in the state of Missouri.
They sell more gizzards.
Gizzards, hot gizzards with hot sauce, and they are wonderful. Yeah,
They're-
and they got a
they're
lot of
chicken
cold beer
gizzards,
too. And so come on out. The parade's on Saturday at 2 in New Melly, and the festival starts on Thursday. So come on out. It's a good little country. Well, it's not a real little fair. It's a good fair though. It's good Americana.
Can't imagine. I'm still on the gizzards. Is there something we would like to do as a council or maybe as the county government for the 250th anniversary of our country? Some kind of a special award we give for something, or rename a street, or maybe a kids coloring contest or something like that? Is that something we want to explore, or just let everybody have the best fireworks that they can?
There you go. I know Andy was here. Matt, have you been working with him on the 250th committee?
Honestly, he'll send an email sporadically, and usually it's never a pure directive of what's happening.
There is a 250th anniversary committee.
Yeah.
We did a resolution for them, and there was a group that was doing it. It wasn't county sponsored, but we were supportive of it. But I haven't heard if they're doing anything about it, so.
Okay. I just didn't know if we as a council maybe wanted to do something with kids, but it's kind of late now because 4th of July is coming up, but, kids coloring contest or something, but,
I'm open to it. Tim?
Yeah, I just want to revisit the topic of, I know we had talked about at one time having a work session on stormwater. I think we still need to do that, and I would really love for maybe the design consultants that are doing the stormwater studies for Cinnamon Hills and over off St. Peter's Howe Road to come out and give us an update. I mean, every time it rains, I have to have my phone nearby because I get all the complaints and all the discussions of flooding, and it's a topic that I still think that we need to have a work session on. I know we tried, and I know you tried about 6 months ago, and I wasn't prepared because I was out of town the week before, but I'd like to just put that bug back in your ear that we really need to, we have some problems in this county. I mean, we've got some development issues that are resulting in people just, every time it rains, they get water in their basement, and it's just something that we're neglecting them, and I think we need to do something. So if there's...
Why don't you let me know when you're prepared?
Next council meeting.
Okay.
Well, I guess the question is, John, will those drainage studies be complete?
Preliminary, yeah. I mean, we don't have plans yet.
Well, that's fine. I mean, I like
You
to...
guys want to coordinate first, and then we'll set a date?
Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let's do that. Yes, Mr. Swan?
Yeah, Sunday's Flag Day, so if you have a flag, check to make sure it's in great shape. If it's falling apart a little bit, I will gladly come and pick it up and deliver it to our local American Legion. If you're in Wentzville off Lickenhouse Boulevard, they have an old mailbox there that you can drop them right on in, and then they retire them properly. So, fly Old Glory.
There you go. And congratulations to Mr. Swanson on wrapping up his teaching career officially.
Yep, done.
There you go.
I shorted it out, though. I only did 29. I didn't do the full 30.
You know, that marathon's tough. I get you. With that, I would
gotta quit.
entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman.
Oh, sorry, Mr. County Executive.
Yeah, while we're on teachers and retirement, there's been a lot of stuff on the internet about the NEC the last week or so.
Yes.
And somebody, half of this isn't true, so it may not even be true, but somebody quoted a member of the council saying, with regard to the NEC, the county executive's wife is on the executive board of the charity horse show at NEC. What's her salary? Now, I don't even know if that was actually quoted correctly, but whether it is or not, I just, my wife rode horses until she started teaching, and and she taught for 30 years and didn't get on a horse. And the day after she retired, 12 years ago, she started riding, and she rides all the time now. And she also donates probably 100 hours a year to the 2 shows that they have out there, and they are for charity. And she receives absolutely no salary, but she did receive this last year, an induction into the 2025 Hall of Fame for the charity horse show in return for all that she did. So no salary, but she got a bowl out of it.
There you go.
I'm very proud of her. Should be.
All right, with that, would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
We are adjourned.